everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast and Merry Christmas. We are here for part 2 of our coverage of the Thanksgiving lineup for their Thanksgiving weekend with 8 movies. This is episode 2, so we're covering 2 of the movies. We'll have 4 episodes total as far as the recaps this week, so it should be pretty fun. And this episode, we are talking about Catch Me If You CLAUS and Letters to Santa. And I'm film critic Rachel and Mitu is here.
Hi, thanks for having me, Rachel.
I'm so glad to have you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Anytime. I love Christmas movies. And now, not to give the listeners such a full peek behind the curtain, but we talked about our love of spreadsheets and how we organize how we're watching Christmas movies with them. And so it just makes me appreciate this experience so much more.
Yeah, if you all want to join the Patreon, you can get a peek behind the curtain at the way my brain works, and you can see how I organize everything. And I've needed to this year because I have had so much on my plate. It's been insane. We figured out that just feature films, new feature films that I have watched and reviewed. I've had so many screenings lately. Since I came back from New York Film Festival, which was on the 12th of October, I have watched / reviewed 24 feature films, just feature films, not any of the Hallmark movies.
Wow. Okay, I know we need to talk about Letters to Santa and Catch Me If You CLAUS.
Yeah.
But can you give me and the Hallmarkies crew just like a small taste of what it's like to review 24 feeture films? Like, what are like 2 standouts for you? And that could be good or bad, just a couple that really stuck out.
Oh gosh, let me think. So for sure, The Holdovers, and it's actually a Christmas movie, so it fits. And we talked about it I talked about it in the first non-Hallmark recap that we did. Totally wonderful, great script, great acting, authentic one. It's one of those movies where it's like, who wouldn't like this? This is just so well done. Highly recommend. Highly.
I'm really looking forward to that one. I saw that movie poster just in the theater, so I didn't watch a trailer or anything, and it stopped me in my tracks because I was like, Paul Giamatti Christmas movie. And then how do you pronounce her name? Divine Joy Randolph. She's such a fantastic actor that I was just so excited to see her in this.
Absolutely outstanding. It's either her or Kathy Bates in Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. My favorite supporting performances of the year for me personally. I thought they were both really excellent, outstanding. What else that are good I had a long stretch where it was like, oh, I'm just not. It always happens with these Oscar, movies. There's always like a bunch that just aren't for me. But I have to say, well, there was one called The Taste of Things that is not going to be for everybody. It has very little plot. It's basically like watching these 2 people fall in love and make lots of fancy French food. But that's like hitting my sweet spot. So I really enjoy this. Some people will think it's boring. I didn't think it was boring. And then I did actually really appreciate Scorsese's recent Killers of the Flower Moon. It is a long movie. It is a tough watch. It's pretty violent. But it is a true history of what happened. So it's like authentic violence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very compelling story, very well acted. And I'm not like the biggest Scorsese person, actually. So I do think it's worth your time.
Okay.
Killers of the Flower Moon. I do.
Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, and then The Taste. What was the third one?
The Taste of Things. And
The Taste of Things. These are the 3 to look for.
Yeah, that one. I don't think it's gotten the wide release yet, so just kind of keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
Thanks.
Another small one to keep an eye on for when it comes to streaming is Ernest and Celestine, A Trip to Gilbertia. Anyway, it's the sequel to Ernest and Celestine, which was an adorable animated film from 2012, which I love. And it's this bear and this mouse that are best friends.
Oh,
adorable. And this is the sequel, and it's adorable. I highly recommend it. I love
down.
animation, but this, I think it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for a reason. It's so cute.
Ooh, I look forward to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I truly love an animated movie.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't seen the originals, also like it was just really, really good. So that's another one that I would recommend. But anyway, so I've just been very busy, is all I'm trying to say. So, but that's why I need my spreadsheets to keep me sane with everything going around. But you can follow if you want to have if you want insight into my reviews, then just follow me at Rachel's Reviews, in rachelsreviews.net and over on my YouTube channel over there, because I have weekly family movie nights and reviews, and monthly we do Talking Disney and animation and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you want more of me, which probably listeners of Hallmarky podcast probably get enough of me, but hey, you never know. But today we're talking about Catch Me If You Claus and Letters to Santa. And on the surface, it seemed like these movies were going to have a lot in common. They both seem to have Christmas magic. They both seem to be about Santa. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. But in reality, very little in common. And I feel like so many these pairings this year. Do you remember the old Animaniacs skit, Good Idea, Bad Idea? Did you ever see that? Where they're like, good idea, bad
Yes.
idea. And
Yes.
and that's what I feel like a lot of these pairings have ended up this season. Like, oh, one of those was a good idea, one of those was a bad idea. And that's how I kind of feel about this. One I really liked, one I didn't like.
Same. Same.
So that's Hallmarky's good idea, bad idea. But let's talk about Catch Me If You Claus, which is team good idea.
Yes, objectively.
Spoiler alert. Uh, and this one was on Hallmark Channel. It's on the verge of her big break. Aspiring news anchor Avery Quinn catches a home intruder wearing a red suit claiming to be Santa's son, Chris. And this is written by Nina Wyman, director Bradley Walsh, stars Italia Ricci, Luke McFarlane. And yeah, so overall, you were also in Team Good Idea camp.
Yes. And honestly, something in my spirit told me that it would be like this. So I watched Catch Me If You Claus second before we recorded, just so it was
Smart.
Just so I could end on the happier note. As I told you, again, another peek behind the curtain. We were G-chatting and hyping each other up for this before we watched the movies. And Bros was one of my favorite romantic comedies, is one of my favorite romantic comedies of the past couple of years. So I just love seeing Luke McFarlane back on Hallmark. And specifically for Catch Me If You Claus, I just really loved the crime, the corruption, which feels very funny to say with a Christmas movie, but those were good storylines. And then the chemistry, the three C's here, because the chemistry was off the charts between these two.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting. So somebody had told me, a writer had told me that one of her scripts got rejected. This was a couple of years ago because they couldn't on Hallmark have a plot element where a heroine does something illegal. That wasn't allowed. You weren't allowed to have somebody, steal something or kidnap somebody. There's no holiday in handcuffs happening in the world of Hallmark movies at that time, at least. So that's
the top 10 holiday movie of all time. Just very briefly,
it is by
one
far
for Holiday in Handcuffs. It's so good.
We should do a recap someday. But it is by far the most a holiday or horror of any.
Yes,
like it is a horror movie. Like
yes,
you change the soundtrack on that thing and it is dark.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not doing that, or they weren't for a long time. So what's interesting about this movie is that Nina Wyman, the writer, she said on Twitter, she says some behind the scenes on Catch Me If You Claus, I developed the script elsewhere 12 years ago. It never got made there, but Hallmark Channel bought it back for me and we got to make it for Countdown to Christmas this year. A lesson for writers that sometimes no just means not right now. Obviously, it needed some major updating, but under the amazing Christmas team at Hallmark, we were able to redevelop it into a fantastic movie. So that's fascinating to me.
Wow. It's such a good story that it's so surprising to me that it wasn't picked up immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Though the hallmark that we see right now is so different from the Christmas movies that we've seen even just a handful of years ago, let alone 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, yeah, no ladies who break the rules. Thankfully, that rule is gone. And now we can watch our gals kidnap and break into places and steal cars and
Yeah.
steal phones and
Yeah.
truly commit just a number of felonies, misdemeanors and felonies.
Definite upgrade.
Yeah.
God for the change.
And I like it. I'm all for it.
Yes. And we love Nina. She's amazing. One of our favorites. She was our first interview that we ever had
Oh,
on the
wow. That's
podcast
cool.
back in 2017. And she also said that we always knew this was going to be a hard movie to execute with night shoots and snowstorms, but our producers, Joel Rice and Michael Barbuto, along with the director Bradley Walsh, completely knocked it out of the park. So yes. So overall, what you liked it?
So much.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah. It was really good. And I have to give 99.9% of the credit to Luke McFarlane. He was so good. And I'm so happy because I really did not like his Christmas movie last year. And it was not his fault. I felt like he was barely in it. Like I was like,
Yeah.
was he on set for one day? I just really disliked the Magical Christmas Village movie last year. That was not for me. And so I was so happy that not only was he in this, which was delightful, but he was also in Notes of Autumn, which I loved. That he was with Peter Porte this last fall. That was, it might be an all-time favorite. It just I really connected with all the stories. I just loved it.
Oh, I didn't catch that one. I'll
Yeah.
add Notes of Autumn to my list.
Oh yeah, really, really, really good. And so we start with her. She's trying to get this job as a news anchor. Her mother was a news anchor. Her mother's was a legend. Everybody loved her mom, and she's trying to get in. And she asked for this 5 a.m. broadcast on a Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, and she gets it, and she's so excited about it. And yeah, I think is a nice way to kind of develop her character, give her motivation.
Yeah, I like that we really established that her mom is just a beloved anchor and has given her such big shoes to fill, because then we learn that someone else has some very big shoes to fill and a sleigh and like other things. And so I like the parallel of the two of them, and I like that they're both dealing with that, and we have such a clear understanding of her on her end of what that's like. Though I will say they positioned Misty, the news anchor, as kind of a bully character, but I thought what she told to her in the bathroom, the advice of dress for the job that you want, and you have to acknowledge the fact that your mom is a star. Like, how can you use this to your advantage? I actually thought that was good advice, and I didn't understand the like shady music coming under it. I'm like, oh, I can't believe she's saying this, because I feel like that's also what I would say to someone, like, yeah, acknowledge the situation. This sucks, and you can also turn it to your advantage and maybe dress as though you could be on air at any moment so that you can maybe go on air.
Yeah. I do think that, start dressing for the job you want, because I do think there is something to the fact that if she was really, if this was her story at this point, like she would also be competing with women who are way younger than her, just like out of grad school, just getting their start. And I mean, so that would be tough, and I guess she's just been producing and been too nervous, or it hasn't worked out to be the anchor. But it is true, the whole dress for the the job you want, not the one you have. I mean, it is good advice. You're right. That is good advice.
Yeah. And it's not like she can make her mom disappear or erase the memory of her mother from all of these people. So if she's this legend and you resent the fact that people compare you to this legend, how can we pivot this? Like, how are all these other people who are children of whomever thriving. Like, let's think. Let's put our heads together.
Yeah.
So I actually thought it
You'd
was good
almost want
advice.
to sort of one up it and be like, you think my mom's great? I'm even better.
Now
I took
watch me
everything
read
that
this
she
prompter.
had and I one upped it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So then she's getting ready for this big, broadcast. And I think she's talking to her mom when this is nervous people make me nervous.
That's a good line.
And so then she goes, Santa is there coming down the chimney and she knocks him out. And then he's like, he was just so funny. And you don't want to upset my dad. He's like, go back to the tooth. I met the tooth fairy.
That was a really good line.
Yeah. And he's like, you have tied up Santa Claus, thereby jeopardizing Christmas. And then he's like, you could be a model. Well, thank you for the compliment. He did a really good job playing the kind of himbo, sort of like pretty, but a little bit dumb guy in this, I think, very well.
Yes. And that's not easy to do because that can become cheesy really fast.
Sure. Yeah.
And he made that so charming. And just the whole time you're like, oh, you silly, silly man. And then he balances it. And I know we'll talk about this later with these moments of like connecting with people and finding the real meaning of Christmas with folks and bringing their Christmas spirit and their, childish joy back. But truly, he was just such a lovable himbo.
Yeah, he really was. And it says that Santa Claus hasn't looked like the proverbial Father Christmas in some time.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
And so then there's also his, I guess, elf or helper or whatever.
Yes.
That's freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on. And he was funny. I enjoyed that. He was good. And it did feel like you could tell that they had put some money into this.
Yeah, it was
all at night and it looked.
It was high quality.
Snow.
Yeah, I agree. Really high quality.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, for an independent woman who was able to knock out Santa, tie him up so well with Christmas lights that he could not move despite being as giant as Luke McFarlane is, with muscles on top of muscles. She entertained conversation with an intruder for a really long time.
Yeah.
I feel like if I successfully knocked a man out, tied him up, I'd be like, all right, you take this house. I'll catch you on the other side, man. Like, if I can't get the cops to me, I'm obviously leaving the premises. And she was just like, let's get to know you.
Yeah.
What makes you tick? and that's the journalist in her and the scaredy cat in me, I guess.
It kind of reminded me of it's not my favorite movie, but it has its appeal. It's the movie The Ref. Have you ever seen The Ref?
No.
Oh, it's got Kevin Spacey in it, so it feels dated. But this crook takes this couple that are having marital problems, like hostage on Christmas Eve, and they're just so miserable and horrible that they're crazy, can't take it. They fight the whole time. it's like a darker comedy kind of, if people like that for Christmas. But anyway, yeah, that kind of reminds me of that, of her just being like, well, I'm going to get the story. I guess that was her motivation, was that she was going to turn him in and get the story kind of along the way. And then I think how about the alarm company guy, security guy? That was kind of funny. He thinks they're partners.
That was a good scene where he is trying to prove to her, Chris is trying to prove to Avery that he is innocent. And then now Avery finds herself in the same position, because the guy's like, well, why aren't you at your house? Because they went to the neighbor's house to drop off the toy. Mm-hmm. And so now she looks just as guilty.
Because there's this Santa crook that's going around. And so she thinks that he's the Santa crook. And so does the security guard guy. And so at the same time, the elf guy is kind of following the real Santa crooks. And so we're getting kind of that going on. And because at the beginning, we find out that the mayor's and the scandal and, and all of that is kind of happening. And they tried to make it kind of a mystery. I don't even know if I really even needed all of that. I could have just had them like going around with all kinds of shenanigans. I don't know if I needed all of this like convoluted plot, but it worked well enough. It was good. And so then we have that every child has a pivotal gift. So my question is to you: did you have that one thing, your Red Ryder BB gun? Kind of a gift that you really wanted?
Wow. I should have known that this question was coming. I don't remember. My mind has gone blank. I'm trying to think of like Christmas gifts that mean a lot to me. The ones that always meant the most to me were books. I mean, I know when people hear me on a podcast called Hallmarkies, they think that was a really popular kid who spent a lot of time playing. But really, I love books. And so I just loved, like, I was the only baby for a long time. My mom and all of her siblings, I was the only kid for a really long time. And so I got a lot of presents, but the ones I always loved the best were books.
Well, my favorite, the only one of these that I really remember is like the gift was definitely my American Girl dolls. That was like the very exciting big gift, because they were expensive. And so I got one year, I got Samantha, and then another year, maybe a couple of years later, I got Molly, and that was a big deal. Big deal.
That is a big deal. Yeah. I was not an American Girl doll girl, but I know that meant a lot to the girls, the proverbial girls, if you will. And so I'm very happy for you.
Yeah.
Because I had friends who still talk about, like, how excited they were when they got certain things. I remember you could add things to the dolls or get corresponding stories and books and stuff.
Yeah, I was more of American Girls than I was into Barbie, because the thing about, I mean, I like Barbie and I still love Barbie to this day, but the thing about Barbie that makes them not as much fun to play is that they're really hard to dress. Whereas the American Girl dolls are like bigger, their hands aren't as, like pointy, they're easier to get the clothes on. They're just easier. So
I was not allowed to have Barbies as a child.
Oh, really?
my mom was very, very concerned that I become a feminist. Shout out to the current Barbie movie. And so my mom actually did not allow Barbies. And this isn't a pivotal gift, but I distinctly remember every time I received a Barbie, like from a family member or even just, whatever, just a family friend, my mom would always have me say thank you, of course. And then I always knew to set those aside and she would donate them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I never was a Barbie. I was never really into dolls anyway. So it never felt like a loss, but my mom would always donate Barbies. Oh. She'd be like, here's another book, kid.
That was like, my heart died for you.
No.
But that's good that you were on board with it, because I would have been like, you're not giving away my.
No. No, it didn't bother me at all. I remember like a friend trying to play with Barbies with me once, and I was like, what are we gonna make them talk? Like, what's the goal here? I really didn't, genuinely didn't understand. It makes me think about, I have a rescue puppy and she doesn't really know how to play with toys. Like, so I'll see at the dog park, people would throw balls thinking like she'll run after them. And she's truly like, so why did you take that from my mouth and throw it? Like, why are we doing this? And that's how I felt. That's how I felt anytime I played Barbies.
We would spend hours just setting up the parameters of the game, of the play time, of like what the names were and what the jobs were and what they're like. Usually they were some brand of orphans who had to like make it on their own of some kind of, or single moms of some kind, and whatever,
Yeah. We said, I want gritty stories.
My mom would come in and be like, oh, it's time for dinner or whatever. And be like, we just started. And she's like, you've been in here all day.
I really respect that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had a lot. My sister and I, we spent a lot of time together. We played, we had a lot of fun. Were you an only child?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No. My brother is much older. So
okay.
We did not grow up together, like both of us as children. So I truly had like 3 older people in my life. And so I was just like, yeah, I'll just be over here vibing. Don't worry, guys.
One of the things I love, and this is a tangent, but one of the things I loved about the Lego movie was I loved this sense of play that it had, where they had the different worlds, but then they also had sort of the merging of the different worlds, because that's the way that kids play. When a kid plays, they'll have like Luke Skywalker and here's Barbie and here's, kind of thing. And here's a dinosaur for no reason. And it's so because I have younger siblings that are way younger than me. And I used to sit down to play with them, and they would end up just getting really mad at me, because when you play with a kid, they are not interested in you really participating at all. They just want you to just like stand there.
Yeah.
And so then I would get kind of bored and be like, oh, Sim's in here. And they'd be like, oh. So I don't know. That's the older sister. What can you do? But because my mom had my younger brother when I was 16. And then my youngest sister when I was 18. And so that was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to the movie. So they end up at this bar where there's this Charles Dickens acting troupe that's all there. And that was just delightful. Super fun. I would totally go see their play.
That was such a good part of the movie.
Dinner theater.
I thought they spent a little long there, not for the sake of the movie. I thought that was really fun and funny. But I thought for 2 people in a rush, racing against like having to get gifts across the world, uncovering the mayor's scandal, finding the Santa crook and his accomplice, they were like, you know what? Let's get to know these folks. Let's sit down. Let's chat. Let's have, candy cane, like sleigh bells and whistles, candy cane and thistles. Let's just chill here. And so I thought
that's a good point,
that they were chilling there for a while. But I liked it. I loved the reveal of like thinking they're walking down into a scary dungeon, and then no, it's just community theater. Community theater will always be there for you.
Yes. And so then they end up getting roped up together and by the bad guys. And I did think it was just like this cute little moment when they're roped up and they end up holding hands. Like, it was just adorable. There's nothing I love more in these movies than like a subtle, ooh, accidentally, oh, we held hands. Oh, it's my favorite. It was nice. Basically, practically the only thing I liked in the next movie was at the very beginning. They have a cute little handhold, and so then they talk a lot about that the Santa title will be stripped from his family lineage, and she talks about her about her mom, and he says, we may not be our parents, but we can be great in our own way. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's The Trouble with Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow. It is the first of the Brook Hollow series. In best-selling author Jennifer Snow's sweet, wholesome Christmas romance, The Trouble with Mistletoe, our heroine learns that you can't say no to a mistletoe kiss, no matter who's under it. Since leaving Brook Hollow and her fiancé Luke Dawson 12 years earlier, Victoria Mason hasn't looked back. She's traded the small-town dream of marriage, kids, and family Christmas dinners for late nights working at a high-powered acquisitions firm, lunches at trendy New York restaurants, and jet-setting vacations on the slopes. So her latest work assignment to acquire Brook Hollow's sporting goods store poses a challenge for Victoria in more ways than one, because it's almost Christmas and she's got other holiday plans, and the owner is reluctant to sell, and the owner is Luke. She needs to wrap up the deal before she gets caught up in her old life and her old love, or becomes trapped under the mistletoe again. You can find The Trouble with the Mistletoe by Jennifer Snow wherever you purchase your holiday reads, or use the affiliate link in the description below. And there's just a whole bunch of sort of back and forth, that, you know, they tell them that you won't believe us, but this is mistaken identity. We're not the Santa Crook, because the Santa Crook has like a flash drive. The flash drive has all of the accounting for this mayor guy.
Yes.
That he has this fake charity where it's basically like money laundering.
Yes. Actually, like this was all very close to the plot of the movie Dashing Through the Snow on Disney Plus. That's also out right now.
That was absolutely terrible. I hated it so much.
Really? I thought it was cute, but just it was I was like, whoa, this feels so similar of like, is this guy Santa or is he breaking into my house? I'm gonna take him to the police. Uh-oh, the mayor is up to something bad.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, very similar.
Yeah, I can see on that aspect. I guess I can see, but I just thought Ludacris was like completely flat in that role. Like it felt like there was a cue card guy off stage and he was just reading it the entire time. And it wasn't for me. But there's sort of these back and forth. And I honestly didn't even really need it. I could have just had them sort of like, they could have been on a scavenger hunt for all I needed. You know, I just didn't really care about all the intricacies of the Santa Crook and the flash drive and the whatever. Like it was fine. It was fun, but it was maybe a little more convoluted. They almost tried too hard. They didn't need to try so hard.
I agree. I can't tell if it's because she's a journalist that they wanted this to be a little bit hard hitting.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought even just the way she summarized it at the end of like, this mayor, don't trust him. We found a lot of bad stuff about this guy. Like it truly could have just been that. And then I was like, okay, well, so the comptroller and the local charity and the mayor, I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm trying to take notes and I'm trying to keep track of what's going on in the movie. But I mean, how could I not get distracted by the fact that they're totally making out in that car?
Yes. They duck into a car to escape being tied up again. And then they make out so that they just look like two people making out versus two people on the run, which also I love that. I love that in all those like spy movies where it's like they just grab each other and start kissing as if there is like nothing else two people might be doing. Like, we have two options: look like fugitives or make out. So guess what we're doing?
Right. But it was so funny, and it kind of makes sense because the people are just gonna be like, "Ooh, private moment," and move on.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of your natural reaction.
For sure.
But and then the fact there was a guy in the back, and they find his phone and everything. That was all funny and.
Yeah, and the reveal that he's like part of the pizza place that the theater company loves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. And then there was this guy who had been accused of stealing funds. Then he gets fired, but then he'd sued the mayor. That's why I'm saying all this sort of back and forth. this guy, Peter, he'd sued the mayor for wrongful termination. Nobody believed him because this mayor was very popular. And so that's why he wanted to get all of, I still don't know if I completely understand what the point of all of the robberies for Crooked Santa was. Is to distract them away from the fact that there's this flash drive and to create like another news story away from the mayor.
I believe. Oh, you know what? Because in my mind, truly until this exact moment, I thought they were trying to rob a bunch of places to include within that a robbery of the flash drive so that they could conceal that the goal all along is the flash drive. But now
you're right. You're absolutely right. Because I have written down it's a series of robberies to make it seem like a serial theft ring.
But they just wanted the
when
flash
in fact
drive.
He's targeting one safe to get that drive. Yeah, I have it in my notes. Why did I even say these? Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're exactly right. So they're trying to like create this idea of this whole ring, and one of those things is the flash drive, but that's really the only reason.
Yes. And then what I really like is like once we get through it and all the things are revealed after the back and forth, she runs into the newsroom and they were counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to go on broadcast to an empty desk. Like she runs in and it's not as though she was in the studio getting dressed and doing her makeup. Like she is not there. She goes from in the midst of the chaos to transported there via sleigh with Chris and his dad. And she just runs in as they're counting down. And it just begs the question of what were they going to do when they got to 1?
Well, no, because they were going to make that the assistant or whatever who didn't want to do it. And she was like, no, don't put screaming, I don't want to. And I
truly was like, what were they even lighting?
and he almost have a kiss, and then his dad shows up, and then he says you've been nothing but generous, kind, and caring, and so then they go to the station, and they almost catch her, but she's like, too bad, I already emailed it to the station, it's already been uploaded. And then she rides. Yeah, the sleigh functions outside linear time and space.
Yes, very cool. Yeah. Would love that sleigh just as part of my life.
And so she makes it there and she gets the gig. It turns out his name is actually Chris Vanderschmidt, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, because the Santa title can be stripped from your lineage. So sorry to the Kringles, but you've lost it to the Vanderschmidts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a movie there somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we get our kiss, and they're going to Bali for breakfast.
A dream.
It'd be pretty high on my list.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I would probably give it like a 4.5 out of 5. I had a great time watching it.
Absolute same. It was so good.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
All right, let's talk about Letters to Santa. And so this one is directed by John Stimpson and writers Danielle Artigo and John Artigo. It stars Katie Leclerc and hold on, sorry. It stars Katie Leclerc and Rafael de la Fuente. And it's during the holidays, young siblings utilize a magical pen that grants wishes to bring their estranged parents back together. Now, I've realized about every year now, when we got the first Marriage in Crisis movie from Hallmark, it was like, ooh, this is refreshing. This is different. This is exciting. And I can't even remember which one it was, but it had Nikki DeLoach, and
Ooh, love her.
and she's great. But even then, I still didn't like love it. And now they've done one just about every year since. So we've gotten 4. Now we have like 3, 4, 5, something like that. And I just don't love them. It's just not for me. Like even if they're done like really well, and it's not that it's just not my favorite kind of story. Even like Oscar nominated ones like Marriage Story and stuff like that. Like I just don't love watching people fight and be angry, and it literally causes my heart to start to race, and I just don't enjoy it. And maybe it's because I was very fortunate that like I have been extremely minimally impacted by divorce in my life. It is not something I've had to like, and I can see if it is something you've had to deal with in your life, like why you would want to see a sweet rom-com, with that, and why that would be, everything doesn't have to be about me, but I also can't lie and say I love something when I don't. And so this movie was already an uphill battle for me, and it did not win me over. Some of the others have basically won me over, but this one, I really didn't care for it. It was not for me. It was definitely a bad idea.
For me, Enrique was such a stunningly trifling husband that I thought Hallmark was going to make the bold, brave choice of like, let's let them divorce and let's show that it is better for these people to not be married to each other and that they can still have this healthy family dynamic and parent their kids. But perhaps these two are not meant to be together.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nikki DeLoach, I love in Curious Caterer that like she's happily divorced and has a great co-parenting relationship with her ex-husband. So I sincerely thought that's where we were headed, especially when he took that call in therapy. And there's this, I mean, I know you'll get into the plot, but like there's a point where he's in marriage counseling with her and his ringer is on his phone and he takes a call. And so in my mind, that happens just like a couple minutes into the movie. I was like, oh, they're going to separate. And that's for the best. That's for the best. Yeah. This is good.
I mean, especially if they're having this level of conflict after 4 months of being separated, like no progress at all.
Yeah.
And like, I did not care. My biggest problem with this movie is that I did not like the way that they framed her as being kind of the villain in this story, because I would want to divorce somebody as well if they took my advance. So it's not even like money that it's an advance. Like if things don't go right, like I need it, just in case, like you don't want to spend it all. But it's an advance. They took my advance and invested it in, even if it's a family members, it's still a restaurant, which is a highly, highly risky thing, without talking to me about it at all. Like that is really bad. And the fact that they would frame that as her being in the wrong because he happened to have been giving it to his mother, that does not go well with me. That doesn't sit well with me.
That is why I rooted for their divorce for the whole movie. Yeah. It's like, absolutely not. These people need to be apart from each other because he does not respect her.
No. Yeah, I mean, practically the only moment I liked in this movie, I mean, the kids were cute, but was at the very beginning when they're picking out trees and he like subtle hand holds her and there's like this cute little moment. I was like, oh, but then it was all downhill from there. There was hardly anything else I liked as much as that. I mean, it was a cute idea of the fact that the kids are writing these letters to Santa and then they keep getting the things that they're asking for. And it's kind of funny that the kid wants a PlayStation because in Season for Family, that's the same thing that the kid wants is a PlayStation. So I don't know what's going on with Hallmark and PlayStation, but that's he keeps asking for, and he asks for a puppy, and there's a puppy on the stairs, and it turns out it's the grandma and the sisters and stuff, and that was cute. That was nice, but I just couldn't stand the fighting. It's just not for me. I just hate it. Like the story has to be so good for me to like enjoy a movie where there's a lot of fighting. It just is not something I enjoy in stories.
For me, I didn't mind the fighting because I love mess. I love messy things. I'm really devoted to like just messy stuff. So that to me did not bother me at all. What bothered me is, again, I truly thought they were going to be like, and that's why it's okay when parents divorce.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know we'll talk about this sequentially, but when we get toward the end and it's like, oh, they're actually going to stay together. I was like, whoa, hold on, like, pump the brakes. Because even the dog, I thought it was, very cute that his mom and his sister are fulfilling their Christmas wishes, but his mom chooses, which, just taking a step back, is so gorgeous.
Yeah. Beautiful dog.
His mom. Oh, I meant his mom. I was like, wow, that is
it was a really pretty dog.
I mean, the puppy was gorgeous as well, but yeah, his mom was just like stunning to me.
Yeah.
His mom gets the dog because the kids think that they have a magical pen, and she finds the letter that they write asking for a dog. And so she's like, yeah, we'll put a dog on the doorstep. And then how does the conversation happen? The dad's like, we'll keep it if your mom allows it. So now he's made her the villain. The mom does not have time for a dog. She's trying to pitch a book at the same time she's trying to raise these kids because he's so busy being a restaurant manager. And he is like complaining to his kids essentially about Rebecca and this dog, and like she just feels like the enemy. So then she ends up keeping the dog, letting the kids have it, which is great because the dog was lovely. And frankly, my main note for this film, in addition to like they should have divorced, is we needed way more of that adorable dog in the film.
More dog.
But I wrote in my notes, like, should we send Enrique to The Hague? Like, what is the level of like criminal justice that we can bring down here? Because he's spending her money, he's putting responsibility on her plate. He's late to pick up the kids when she has to go do stuff for her job. He's sending strangers to her house.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Okay. So his car has broken down. She needs to get to this meeting. He's supposed to pick up the kids, right? So then he drops his phone in the car and in the engine. And so he can't call her and tell her that this is very convoluted. So his assistant, he was at getting a massage from. And so she says, oh, I could go pick up the kids. And so she shows up and she's like, the mom's like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Why would I let you, take my kids, kind of a thing.
Anywhere.
And she's super mad. I guess what I would have done if I were the dad in this situation, I would have used the assistant's phone to call my wife and be like, hey, Vanessa, or whatever her name was, is she works with me. She's coming over and is going to help, and just explain, because there's no way that woman didn't have a phone. So
yeah,
like, I would have done that, or just say, hey, can you give me a ride?
Yes, because a core issue is the fact that because he is so wrapped up in his family's restaurant, his dad died, he's helping out his mom. He wants their restaurant to be back in the black, if you will. And so he is dedicating so much time at the restaurant and away from the things he used to enjoy doing with his wife and caring for his family. So Rebecca is already upset about that. And he talks about how he has no time and he can't dedicate to anything else. But you have time to get a massage from your assistant. And then that same assistant, you can't, to your point, Rachel, use her phone to call your wife and let her
from her. I don't understand why, though. I don't really like that she immediately became kind of accusatory towards towards, I think her name was Vanessa, whatever, the assistant.
Yeah.
It's almost like she
Candace.
accused them of having a relationship, that they're like having a relationship. And that seemed like a step too far to go with this. But I mean, I can see why she would be upset about this, because the situation's ridiculous, but it's, it was just part of the conflict of the movie. Is these people that just can't get on the same page.
Yes, it's the relationship part. Yes, sure. A shade too far. Mm-hmm. But as soon as a stranger shows up to your home and it's like, yeah, go ahead, give me your kids. And it's not the assistant's fault.
Yeah.
Because she believes that Enrique has called ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But just imagine someone showing up and being like, yeah, come get in my car or put your kids in my car or whatever. You'd be like, who are you? You have 5 seconds to explain before I call authorities.
Well, and so then they bring in this Liam guy, and I thought, oh, is he going to be kind of her temptation away from the marriage? But that wasn't like really what kind of happened. But he's definitely like a sort of a threat to Enrique, because this guy like speaks 4 languages, and he's just like the perfect man. He
was adorable, the illustrator that the kids thought was an elf, because they wrote that letter wishing for an elf, and then they got that in the form of this lovely British illustrator.
Do you have alien parents?
Yeah. And they were like, are you from Earth? That was so good.
Yeah.
But the introduction of Liam and the introduction of Enrique's assistant, I think her name was maybe Candace,
maybe.
That what I liked about the introduction of these characters, again, is I thought, because I so comfortably assumed we were headed for divorce, I thought less that these people would be necessarily love interests for our characters, but more like showing them, you know what, there's life after the two of you. Like, it could be Liam, it could be someone else. It's just that that there's other folks out there. Just introducing them to the fish in the sea.
Yeah. And that could have been good.
I thought, like, everything in this film, I guess it was so beyond my realm of comprehension that one would stay married to Enrique that I rationalized everything through that frame.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, Liam is just showing Rebecca, like, there's more out there. That's what we're getting from him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it could have been sort of Hallmark's version of Stepmom without the cancer.
Yeah, true.
True. It could have been, these people all learning to kind of get along and co-parent and deal with each other. And like, that could have been interesting. Yeah. Could have been different, but it was just, to me, at least, it was extremely unpleasant. I just didn't enjoy it. And then there were some nice scenes though, like them making the tamales and then there's this whole dancing thing. The kids are like, this should be dad dancing with mom, not the stupid elf.
Yeah, that was funny.
And that they have another letter. It says, we want them happy together. And then the family helps her to like make her presentation. And that's when the mom says the money that you invested kept them afloat after, I think it was the dad died or something. Something happened. Yeah, dad died.
Yes.
And the thing is that's kind of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter if the investment paid off. It doesn't really matter if it was for family. It matters that she was not involved in this discussion. I'm not married, but I think that if I was, I would want to be involved with the decision to give a ton of money to anyone. Especially if it was based on my advance for one I had earned. Like, I mean, you're in a committed relationship. Wouldn't you expect like your partner to like talk to you about this?
I'm just laughing. It's just like, I can't imagine. Oh my goodness. When we first moved into the same home, we we each had our own little jars of coins, and we joked that we were combining our savings accounts because we combined those coins into one big jar. And even that was a big step for us. We were both
Right.
like arguing over who was putting more quarters in there, like whose jar was more penny filled than the other. What the biggest red flag to me, so as you know, Rachel, some of the listeners might know because I've gotten to join this podcast a few times, is I co-host a podcast called the Pilot Podcast with one of my closest friends in the world, BJ. I had to call BJ and decompress about the interaction between Rebecca and her mom for like a really long time. Like, this film genuinely warranted time for me to decompress with a friend. And what blew me specifically, well, many things, but when Enrique's mom is like, I told him like this is a pride thing and I'm not to talk to not to talk to outsiders about it. So one, Enrique's mom should not be the one coming clean about the money to Rebecca.
Yeah.
Two, of course, as you said, like Enrique shouldn't even reach in her purse and grab $5, let alone take her book advance for a book that she has also had some writer's block on. So That's really scary.
Yeah.
But three, even in this like heart-to-heart confession, Enrique's mom has essentially confirmed that Enrique perceives Rebecca as an outsider in family affairs, including family affairs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That center on Rebecca's coins, not his, but Rebecca's. So that just like that again, I was like, the heart-to-heart is what really shook me, because I was like, I think these two people are going to stay together. that's when it hit me that we were not heading for divorce. So like the smile came off my face and I was like, oh no, she just called her an outsider.
Yeah
Not in a malicious way or anything like that, but just she was like, I told him not to tell outsiders, and I didn't know that he would. She even said something to the effect of, I didn't know that he would extend that to you.
Like, what's to stop him from the next time there's a crisis or whatever it is, and he thinks that he knows the right thing and not talking to her about it? Like, it doesn't, like, that's what I said. The fact that this turned out for the best and the restaurant's doing great and the investment paid off, whatever, that's irrelevant. It does not matter.
No.
How it turned out. It's like, I mean, just because if say he took $5,000 and gambled it and he happened to win, that's irrelevant. It does not matter.
And that's what he did. A restaurant investment is such a gamble.
Absolutely.
That's what he did.
Yeah, he did.
So even if you pick the right horse or not, you shouldn't have taken my money to the horse race.
Yeah, you should. Sometimes people are saying marriage is 50-50 or committed relationship, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
50-50. It's not 50-50. It's 100-100.
Yes.
And if you're gonna make something work, you can't have like part of it that's excluded from the other person, or that you have to truly, in order, I think, for even a friendship to work, like you have to have some kind of we.
Yes.
Right? You have your goals, their goals, and together you have we goals. And this couple did not strike me as being able to create we goals aside from the children. And so if I were their therapist, I would be like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be like, I'm happy you're reconciling. Great, good news. But we need to do some work.
Yes. 4 months of silence, 4 months of no progress.
Yeah.
Suddenly they have one great brainstorm about this book where they take advantage of this magic pen idea, and she can plug it into the children's story and it becomes a success. And now they're back together? No, because there's going to be a next thing. Oh my gosh. I have one other complaint about Enrique. Actually, I have a ton, but I'm just trying to be mindful of the length of this episode. But when he was talking to the kids and his daughter said something to the effect of like, true or false, you love mom, but mom really isn't into you right now. And he's like, I just don't know. I don't know if she's into this. I don't know if she's in it or not. I'm just like, why are you having this conversation with your kids?
Yeah.
And then he eventually gets to like a more mature thing of, you know what, no matter what, mom and dad, the core thing is we love you kids forever. So
Right.
that is the most important thing. And no, don't worry about all this other stuff. I thought it was weird that they were doing a little bit of a back and forth before he did the mature thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you should just say, you'll have to ask your mother. Yeah, you have to ask her. Like, I can't speak for her. But for sure, we do love you. And it would be sincere, because one thing I didn't like in the Navigating Christmas movie was so in that movie, her ex has completely like abandoned the son, and is going to have a baby with this other woman. And at the end of the movie, she's like, don't worry, there'll be no changes between your father and you because of this baby. That he loves you and he'll be there for you. I'm like, what have we seen in the course of this movie to bolster that statement? Nothing. We've seen no proof of that at all. And so you saying that just comes off as patronizing. Teens are smarter than that. And so what the correct answer is to say, sometimes people make bad choices and it's painful. And I'm sorry. And he does love you, but he's not making the best choices right now. That's the correct answer.
We needed a truth teller like Misty from Catch Me If You Claus. I just needed her to like walk into the living room once and be like, okay, everyone, I have about 5 minutes. Let's gather everyone. And I'm just going to go one by one about how each of you is overstepping.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the correct answer. Sometimes people make bad choices.
Yes.
But they still love you, but they've just made some bad choices. That's it. That's the answer.
Speaking of bad choices, there's a cute scene where Enrique is like singing Silent Night to his daughter. And then his son is like, yeah, check it. Let's try to like do something else instead. So he raps it. And the rap was wild. But specifically, the camera work during that rapping scene was so chaotic that I thought, like, maybe that's what we deserve. Like, maybe we're hearing this man rap Silent Night, and so we don't get to see it normally. Like, we do have to just be jerked around the room while he does it. Like, it all just has to go together.
Yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda, this was not.
No, absolutely not.
I would say in general, the filmmaking in this was weak. You could tell this was an acquisition. If you look at on the IMDb, it doesn't even have like the wall of the, what am I saying? The Walmart. If you look on the IMDb, the Hallmark logoing isn't even there. It's not in the trailer, all that stuff. And so, yeah, this was clearly an acquisition, and just a lot of the shots were kind of blurry. They weren't lit well. They weren't, the sound mix was poor. All that stuff was weak. It just looked cheap.
Yeah, it did.
So, this one I really didn't care for. I would never watch it again. It's not for me. I'd give it like 1 crown.
You know what? I was going to be 1 crown, but I might give it 2. Not because I think it's any better, but because it invoked such a level of emotion that I had to call a friend. And so I don't know that there's many movies, period, where I've been like, I just need to talk to somebody right now. So for invoking that level of emotion, let's give you 2 crowns.
You're like, I need to get on my PlayStation for a little bit. Process this.
Exactly.
Yeah. There we go. That is Letters to Santa and Catch Me If You Claus. Let us know what you think of these two in the comments section or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And this was so much fun, Mitu. Thanks for doing this. And where can people find you and the podcast and all that fun stuff?
For sure. At the Pilot Podcast, we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer our listeners' questions of should I watch this? And so you can find episodes of the Pilot Podcast on all podcasting platforms or thepilotpodcast.com. And then on social media, mainly Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, we're at The Pilot Pod.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes to either of our podcasts, please leave 5-star reviews. It helps us so much and people to find us. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Most of our viewers on YouTube aren't subscribers. So it really helps us a lot if you hit that subscribe button. And then we also have our patron group, which is super fun. And we have this month, we have director Lee Friedlander, who is coming on, or will just come on when this airs. And she's awesome. We're watching a Royal Queen's Christmas, which is super fun. And we do that every month. We have a guest for Q&A or watch along for our patrons. So we make it worth your investment to become a patron. And that's just one of the many benefits. So please take a look at that. And then we also have our merch store, which is super fun. Got lots of holiday designs. I kind of worked with our designer, Jessica, to have sort of a Barbie aesthetic a little bit to the designs this year. And so I think they're pretty fun. Turned out fun. And then we also have all things for like the Hardy in your life, postable. If you're looking to shop for the Hallmarky in your life, the merch store is the way to go. So please take a look. And it's not just shirts. There's cell phone cases and notebooks, cups, all kinds of great stuff. So check it out. And so thanks so much. Again, let us know what you think of these movies. And we'll talk to you later. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.